Hello, everybody, and welcome to Guildmaster Gaming. This time around, I'm here with Derek Hutchins, the director and I guess writer of The Witch of Endor, which is going to be showing later on this year at the Film Quest Film Festival, very close to where you're living because it's in Provo and you're down in that area. So if you like what we're doing here, please like this and share it out. Let's help the independent filmmakers, get the audience that they deserve. So, Derek, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about The Witch of Endor.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here. So, my name is Derek Hutchins. I live in Provo, like you said, which is just right around the corner from Film Quest. So, I'm very excited that I get to premiere there. It's literally 2 blocks from my house here. And The Witch of Endor is a biblical horror film. And if you're, well, I'll just say that it's based on a story from the Bible which can be found in 1 Samuel chapter 28. And it's about a king named King Saul who goes out into the desert and he finds a witch and he has her call up the spirit of a prophet who he knew. And he's trying to get some information from this prophet. And I've always been fascinated by this story because it's just a little horror story just tucked right there in the Bible. And as a fan of genre stuff and a fan of religious horror, I knew I wanted to make something, and I figure I live here in Utah. We got the desert. We got a bunch of religious people. Maybe this is something that we have the fan base for, and it's something that's always it's a project that's really intriguing to me, and I'm hoping that other people also feel similarly. And I will just add that it's also even if you're not a person of faith, it's still an important story because it's one of the oldest ghost stories, horror stories that we have recorded. And so a lot of people, even if they're not, Christian or whatever, they still will talk about it and bring it up. So I think it's never been put on film as far as I'm aware. So
Yeah,
now it
I
has.
do. I will say I was kind of intrigued when I saw what this was about because I have studied religion myself um, from a different perspective. Uh, part of my education was the sociology of religion.
Okay.
So the story of the Witch of Endor or the Medium of Endor, or however you want to call it, the Saul with the
Yeah.
it's one that is a controversial story that comes out of the Bible. So I was curious when I saw this, was it, it's obviously, a Bible story for you,
Hmm.
but was it because of some of the controversy around the story that also intrigued you about it, or was it purely just kind of that it was just a ghost story, a horror story of the Bible?
Yeah. I mean, kind of both. I'm a person of faith. I try to watch, religious content. There's a lot of it out there. But a lot of it I don't really resonate with because it's not genre based. And so I wanted to make something for people like me that, maybe lean toward more towards horror or genre stuff. And also the controversy, there's a lot of ambiguity in this story.
Mhm.
Saul, the witch has powers, or does she? That's the question. Is she the one calling up the spirit, or is it God calling up the spirit? And I really like that ambiguity. And I wanted to make sure we try and keep that in the story. And that was, you guys watching it can be the judge, but that was the goal, to let you kind of decide for yourself what's happening there. Uh, and I think it's accessible for that reason for lots of different people.
Okay, that's great. So
Yeah,
you mentioned that it's because it's, that crossover into horror. So are you a
yeah,
horror person or genre
I
film?
am. I'm a big horror fan. Yeah,
Okay. So,
absolutely.
so, I always got to ask people that, why horror then? And particularly why religious horror? Because that is such a it's a subcategory in there.
Yeah. So why horror? I mean, people have asked this question for hundreds of years, and I don't think there's one answer that kind of encompasses it. But for me, um, I've just always been drawn to it ever since I was a kid, and I really love like I think monsters are cool, which might seem like a lame answer, but like I think monsters and ghosts are cool, and I love that I'm able to uh, you know experience these stories in a way that's safe. I'm not actually having to live those stories, and it's kind of cathartic in that way. And I really like the high stakes that horror brings for storytelling. it's really fascinating to me that, it's life or death most of the time. And that it gets me invested, you know, more than other kinds of stories. Um, that was like half an answer. What was the other? Why
Well,
religious horror?
yeah,
That was the
why into the
okay.
religious horror? I mean, I know there's some of it that deals more with, like The Exorcist and some of these where it's, possession more modern day, but you chose to go back into a biblical story. So I was kind
Yeah,
of curious, why is there the draw an overall religious horror? Was this a one-off for you? Just kind of filling out where you're coming from with this one and why.
yeah. It's interesting because a lot of people, especially in Christian communities, they kind of have this weird relationship with horror where it's a lot of people really try and stay away from it and shun it. Um, but I think that horror, there's this dichotomy of lightness and darkness, and you can't have the good stuff without the darkness that has to be overcome. So I think that that battle is really interesting, and that's kind of inherent in the Christian faiths and other faiths as well. Uh, and so I don't know why people shun it as much as they do. But for me, that's what makes it interesting. The stakes, like I mentioned, are kind of higher if you're battling against the ultimate evil forces. It's really fun to me. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with
Yeah,
it.
I have talked with authors and they say the reason why they like horror is like you're saying the stakes, right along the same line, because you
Yeah,
can tell a horror story, or if you tell most other stories, it's kind of expected to have a good ending.
right.
And in horror, it doesn't have to.
You don't know, which is so fun. Can go either way. Yeah.
Yep. So and especially, yeah, getting to the other genres, you're kind of way out there. But so are you originally from the Provo area then?
No, I grew up in Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was going to say, because it didn't sound like you had the Utah language down yet. So,
I don't. Yeah, maybe I'll get there. We'll see.
so, growing up in Connecticut, coming out here, doing religious horror, um, we've already talked about why horror, but why filmmaking? What was your inspiration to become a filmmaker?
Yeah. Um, so when I was a kid, I loved writing. I would, in third grade, we had this assignment to write short stories, and I always thought that was really fun coming up with stories. And then when I was a teenager, we had to take these career tests, and every time I would take it, it would be like it would tell me I should be an author. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if that seems like a viable career path, but I do love it. And and at some point when I was a teenager, I just had the realization that I was like, wait a minute, people get paid to write movies. That's like the best career in my mind. And so I started pursuing that. And I still do write short stories, and I've self-published some other stuff as well, like fiction books and novellas and stuff. But filmmaking for me is the ultimate goal. I just think it's the ultimate combination of all the mediums of storytelling, visual, narrative, um, music, sounds. I love movies. So
Okay.
I'm
So,
sure yeah.
so let me ask this then. What are some of the movies that you grew up with that were so inspirational to you in the style of your storytelling or your choice of storytelling?
Yeah, I mean, I think my tastes have definitely evolved, but I didn't grow up in a household where movies were like my parents weren't cinephiles. I grew up watching the popcorn stuff, Star Wars, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Mummy. Those were like my favorite movies growing up. And they do lean, towards horror. The Lord of the Rings, that kind of stuff is all, there's horror baked into those stories. And then when I was a teenager, I really started getting into horror movies themselves. Um, Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Oh, just what some of the
I'm getting
movies
off
you,
track.
no, some of the, that's fine, not a problem.
Yeah,
That was just some of the movies that inspired you for your style of storytelling, or
yeah.
really kind of drove it forward to the movies.
Yeah, so those are the movies that I grew up that I still love. And as far as horror movies go, that influenced Witch of Endor specifically, I really like um, the stuff A24 has been doing lately. So stuff like The Green Knight, where it's fantasy, but it's really uh, cinematic and epic and beautiful and more artsy kind of. And then The Witch was also another influence for us for this one. So I'd say those are probably the two biggest direct influence that we were trying to draw from
Okay.
for this one. Yeah.
So I just got to clarify for myself. You said The Mummy. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking in terms of the time frame, we're talking the Brandon Fraser
We're
version.
talking to Brendan Fraser, the cinematic masterpiece. Yeah.
Because I recently was at the convention here in Salt Lake and I knew some people on the Monster panel, and that was a very clear distinction of which one of the three
Yeah.
Mummy.
Yeah. I know. You got to distinguish now. But yes, we are talking about the 1999 Mummy. Yeah.
Okay, they're just having a little bit of fun there with that. So, you got that going on. Um, Now, this story from the Bible of Saul is very well self-contained within that element. But are you looking at this just trying to like start something bigger with this story? Or is this where it's at?
I would love to do a feature. This is a proof of concept. I have like a treatment and outline for the feature version, and this would kind of be part of the climax of Saul's story here.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I'd love to make a feature if someone wants to pay me to do it.
So that's kind of was an idea that was going with this. With it was to show the proof of concept and kind of go from that route.
Yeah,
So as you're saying, it sounds like Film Quest is your premiere then?
that'll be our premiere. Yeah.
All right. So, how can you kind of tell maybe some of the other film festivals out there, or have you gotten acceptance where people might be able to see this at?
We have not gotten any acceptances yet. We're expecting to hear back from some more festivals before the end of the year. But as of right now, um, this Film Quest is our premiere. This is kind of like the end of the main festival season.
Yeah,
And then it kind of takes a break for the holidays and then starts back up next year. So hopefully we'll have some more news soon.
but this will be the kickoff for it, and then you'll run through the 2025 year
Yep.
and kind of go from there.
Yep. And then hopefully it'll be online next fall, October, November, somewhere around there for
Okay.
people to watch. Yeah.
And so you're looking if you're going to do this one kind of self distribution and just have it available after the run then?
We might do self-distribution. There's a couple, there's a horror YouTube channel called Alter we'll talk to see if maybe they want
Mhm.
it. But if they don't, yeah, we'll just distribute it ourselves. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
they're usually at Film Quest, so
Yeah.
that's always fun. So,
Yeah.
okay, so besides the Witch of Endor story, um, do you got anything else in the works that you're working on?
I've always got stuff I'm working on. Yeah, I'm writing a feature right now, which I hope will be the next project. We'll see. It's a low budget, uh, kind of fake documentary style found footage
Uh-huh.
movie about a guy who tries to prove that the devil is real. So kind of still kind of keeping that religious horror vein um, of things. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. I've got the rough, the first draft of it is pretty much done now. So we'll be refining that and we'll see what happens. I'll be talking to people, see if we can get it made. So yeah.
Okay, so kind of still sticking with the theme of religious horror and kind of building
Yep.
up on that. All right. So besides making movies, you were saying that you also do some writing,
Yep.
doing some novella work in that. Is that also in the horror genre?
Yep. Yep. It's all in the horror genre. Yep.
Boy, I've got some people I need to introduce you to then in your writing.
Okay. Let's do it.
So, some people already know that watch this. I'm the president of one of the League of Utah writer chapters, the Infinite Monkey Genre
Okay.
Writers. And so we
Okay.
do all sorts of genre. And there's also a Utah chapter for the National Horror Writers Association. So,
Yes. Yeah, I think I follow the Utah writers on Facebook or something, but I haven't been able to really get connected or meet any people from that yet. But
Oh, I'm
yeah, maybe
surprised
I
because
can.
I know there's at least two or three chapters down in the area around you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I honestly haven't also probably could put more effort into like following it and looking for meetups and stuff. But yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I'd love
but
to meet more people who are in
that's
horror.
actually going way off topic here because you picked one of my points of interest because of what I do.
Yeah.
But so so you're writing scripts, you're working on movies, you've got some books. Are you working on any other books? That's what I was actually going for. So that, so if people are interested in your work, some other things they might be able to find you in.
Sure. Um, yeah, I have a couple short story collections that are available. Um, the first one's called The Undertaker and Other Macabre Tales. The other one is that just came out last week is called The Black Circle and Other Eldritch Episodes. It's a cosmic horror collection. And then I have a novella called The Darkness, which is a cosmic horror novella also. They're all on Amazon. So
Barking up my tree here. Last year I was on a panel of H.P. Lovecraft's impact on modern.
ah,
So
love it.
yes, I'm cosmic horror. Yeah, I'm right in there. Uh,
Awesome.
so that sounds like some fun stuff for the people that are into the horror genre and to be able to get into, especially if you're into cosmic horror. So I've got to ask now, have you thought about doing any cosmic horror films?
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to. In fact, I have an outline for a Lovecraft adaptation for a feature film. I don't know, when or if it'll happen, but yeah, I'd love to do some Lovecraft at some point.
So you say an adaptation, I take it one of Lovecraft's stories or one of
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
Cthulhu type mythos stories?
Yep.
Okay, I
Hmm.
got to ask which one?
Well, I figured that, people are pretty familiar with the better known ones, like Call of Cthulhu, Shout Out of Innsmouth. But this one, some people hate on it. I really like it. It's The Thing on the Doorstep.
Okay.
Uh, so it's not quite as like adventure-y as some of the other ones, and it doesn't really have those cosmic horror entities in it, but it's still got the cosmic horror aspects to it.
That's that
I
slow
think,
descent into madness that he was so
yeah,
good about writing about. So yeah,
yeah,
that's a big part of it. So yeah, I really kind of that sounds fun to me. I can see where that could go.
yeah.
You've piqued my personal interest. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
And I I know some people that I'm going to share this with now because if they're always looking for more cosmic horror writers in the area.
Okay.
I know several of them here in Utah that that's what they specialize in. So a lot of
Cool.
fun there. So we'll have to, so are you
Yeah.
going to be at Film Quest?
I'll be there. Yep.
Okay, I'll be there the entire time. We'll have to make sure I hook up and exchange some information on and get you to maybe meet some of these people.
Okay. Let's do it.
And that goes for anybody there. I'll gladly help introduce writers and back and forth and whoever I can. So you got those type of things that you're looking at as possibilities of things in the future. This one here.
Hmm.
Uh, so if you're not doing film, you're not writing, what does Derek like to do to kick back and relax away from it?
Good question. This is might be kind of a lame answer, but watching movies. I love watching movies and TV shows. If I was really going to try to relax, I'd try to book a massage or, if I had the money, go to a beach or something. But yeah, I mean, if it's just me at home, I'll put on a horror movie. I have an ever expanding watch list, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. And yeah,
Okay.
just chilling with some ice cream, watching some horror movies.
Ice cream and horror, they just go together.
Uh, yeah.
That sounds great. I just find it kind of humorous because we were it's very similar to a recent conversation I had with an author friend of mine. So it's please excuse me for all that. Uh, so we got that. You got these other things. So let me kind of throw it out there. We got what you're working on. But if you
Yes.
had a dream project, a dream job to do, what would it be?
good question. I've got I've got several. But for the purposes of this conversation, if I'm like talking about things that are my top dream projects, one of there's an author that I've recently discovered. His name is Dennis Wheatley.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and so it sounds like you've heard of him. For those who aren't familiar, he wrote the book The Devil Rides Out, which is probably his most popular work, which was adapted into a Hammer Horrors film in the 60s, with Christopher Lee starring as the hero for once. And there's one of his books that I read called The Satanist. I'd love to make that into a limited series or something. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think
So as
that's
far
one.
as oh,
It'd
go
be a
ahead,
little
sorry.
bit hard to put it as just a single shot movie, but I can see
Yeah,
a series. Yeah, that would. Okay.
yeah. So dream projects that I think are like, more feasible than others, perhaps that's top of the list up there. So
Yeah, I bet you if you could probably sell that one too, I think people would be interested in it. So,
yeah.
okay. So we've got some of these different things here. So I'm going to we're getting close to about a half an hour. So I'm going to give a moment here to give like a shout out, however you want to kind of close it up for, if you want to give credit to people or that. Think about that a moment. But while we're still going on, you know, it sounds like you've got a couple of short films under your belt and some ideas for some other things. You've done some writing. If you had someone come to you and say, "Hey, Derek, I want to become a filmmaker," what advice would you give them?
Good question. I would say so. They say filmmaker. Are we implying that they want to direct or what?
I
What's the
mean,
path?
that's just it. There, most of
Yeah,
the times I find people think, "Oh, I'm going to direct," but then they realize, "Oh, but I want to write and tell my story."
yeah.
Or,
See, I didn't start off as a director. I started off as a writer. I got my MFA in screenwriting, and that's what I've been trying to do for years. And eventually, I just decided, hey, this isn't working. I got to start trying something else. And so I started directing and producing my own stuff, and that's been surprisingly successful. I've been surprised by the amount of people who have come forward and said, "Hey, we want to help you make stuff, and we'll work for free or whatever." And
Mhm.
it's been it's been very uh, impactful on me to see people willing to help make stuff, which has been awesome. But if someone were to come to me and say, "Hey, I want to start working on film, be a filmmaker," I would say, um, you know, I probably wouldn't say go to film school. I'd probably say uh, maybe start as a PA. If you don't know what you want to do, try and see if you can get a gig as a PA working for free on like a student film, and that way you can get exposed to the process of filmmaking, kind of figure out if there's something that specific that you want to do, or learn more about. Um, and you can learn a lot of stuff nowadays from YouTube. And you could even reach out to, if you're meeting people on sets of the PA, you could ask to know more about what they're doing or even shadow people. So if they really didn't know what they wanted to do, that's what I would recommend, is just trying to learn that way. Um, but if they do know what they want to do, like acting or directing, I would say start getting connected with people where you are. If you don't know anyone, I'd say maybe check out local groups on Facebook, which is weirdly where people congregate who are filmmakers. There's lots of filmmaking groups um, almost everywhere. And, start off volunteering your time for free, um, making connections that way. So that's what I would say.
okay. So, kind of going to wrap things up here, but before I give the final closeouts, it would you like to give a final shout out, a call out to anybody, or just anything else you'd like to say before we kind of close this up?
Yeah, I'll just shout out to my amazing cast and crew who helped me make Witch of Endor. Um, I had some amazing, like I kind of mentioned a minute ago that I've been surprised by the amount of people who have been willing to help me try to make the stuff that I want to make. I'll just shout out my producers, Lana Stevens, Caleb Rogers, Micah Roberts. You guys are awesome. You, they were the ones who really helped me get connected to the other people who helped make Witch of Endor, the crew and the cast, who are all amazing. And I just want to say thank you all to all of them who I couldn't have done it without them. So thank you guys. Yeah.
All right. So we've been sitting here talking with Derek Hutchins about his film, The Witch of Endor, a religious ghost story, because it I wouldn't call it really a horror tale like what we usually are familiar with, but it's more of a telling of the story, showing that there is some horrific or ghost stories that are available in all sorts of writing. If you like what we're doing here, please uh, like this, share it out, support the local filmmakers, your independents. If you're in the area, come see his film at FilmQuest. It's going to be showing at the end of October 2024, world premiere. So that means I'm kind of limited on what I can do and when I post this out, just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's part of the contractual parts that I do that. It's what they call embargoed until that date because
Yeah.
so got that going. But thank you for joining us and good luck with your film on the festival circuit and good luck with what you got coming up.
Thank you, Daniel. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. Talk to you soon.